Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. We are going to kick off 2018 with our first video here, and what better way to start than with OPI. So OPI's Lisbon collection for spring summer 2018 will be releasing shortly, and today we're going to look at live application of all 12 shades. We'll also do a quick little comparisons section at the end of the video so that I can show you other things from OPI or maybe Essie, other brands that you might have polishes very similar to these. I was sent this collection from polishpick.com. That is one of my favorite places to shop for OPI because they're $5 and some change for each of these bottles, which is a pretty great deal compared to, buying them straight from Ulta or something like that. So I will link down below where you can go to purchase these polishes. They will be available for pre-sale at polishpick.com on or around January 7th. So let's go ahead and get into swatching. This first polish is called a Red-vival City. And sometimes, often, OPI will do orangey reds like this in a jelly formula to make it look very squishy and wet. This one is not like that. This is a straight cream. It has a lot of white in it, giving it a lot of brightness. This is gorgeous in 2 coats. I was really pleased with all the formulas in this collection. They weren't all 2-coaters, but I didn't have messy issues with anything. There wasn't anything that was just spilling over into my cuticles, so I was really happy about that, and this kicks the formula off in a really typical way for how all of these polishes are going to perform here. So this isn't a color that I would say, is brand fantastic, spanking new that you need to run out and get, but if you were looking for something like this, this is a really good one. Next up, we have one of my favorites out of the collection, and that's just because the color is so fun. OPI does have a few things like this by now in the past 5 or 6 years since they got more interesting with their color choices, but I do really enjoy shades like this, so the more they do, the merrier for me. So this is a very beautiful, kind of a turquoise shade. It's definitely green leaning, almost towards a sea green. This is called Closer Than You Might Belém, and it's really, really beautiful. Great in 2 coats. This is very similar to my dog sled is a hybrid, but how similar? We will take a look at that at the end of the video in the comparisons section. And yeah, just a great shade. I definitely recommend it if you're into colors like this. We have 2 very light shades in this collection. Here's the first of the 2, and when we get to the other really light one, I will show you side by side with this one so you can see a direct comparison. This is called Lisbon Wants More OPI, and what was really awesome about this color? I didn't get quite as great coverage with the basic white that they have in here, but this one I got pretty great coverage in just 2 coats, so I was really excited about that. You could definitely go for a third for any of these that you feel like are a little bit too streaky for you at 2, and it depends on your application as always. But I was really surprised with this one. So if you're looking for a great option, you want to wear something really crisp and fresh and like blank canvas, but you don't want it to be absolutely white, this is a fun option. It's nothing that I would say, oh, you have to get this shade, but it is a fun choice. So Lisbon Wants More OPI. I bet a lot of people are going to be asking for this at the salons. It's definitely that kind of shade, but it does get great opacity in 2 coats. There are only 2 polishes in this collection that aren't straight creams. Very typically, I feel like their spring and summer collection have a lot of cream polishes, which I take no issue with. I love a great cream. This is one that is not. This is kind of a mix between a pearl finish and a metallic finish. As far as coloration goes, this is like a coppery bronze, but it has some pink undertones in there, which is cute. I don't feel like it shows up on the nail really loudly. It's just kind of like a hidden blush underneath the coppery bronze shade. So that fact does make it a little bit different than other things, but when I compared it to other things that were similar to this, I ended up preferring the more brightly coppery bronze things. And of course, for me, that's just totally personal preference. I wore each of these polishes 2 times preparing for this video, and I don't know, this may grow on me later as I grow to appreciate that little bit of pink in there, but for me, this just wasn't one of the favorites out of the collection. By the way, this is called Made It to the 7th Hill, and I got this opaque enough at 2 coats. You could perhaps go for a third if you want to just try to richen this up a little bit more, but I did 2 coats. The next shade in the collection is called No Turning Back from Pink Street, and this is just like a bright magenta pink. and it's very striking and beautiful. I thought this was a really fun, beautiful color. This does look very similar to some shades that they already have, so this isn't really going to seem brand new to you, but if you were looking for a fresh pink to add to your collection, I think this one is really beautiful. It gets great coverage, almost a one coater, so this is no turning back from Pink Street. It's no surprise to you guys, I don't particularly love pink, so for me this one was kind of just not really my cup of tea, but I know that plenty of you will love this. So I did 2 coats. We do have a pink coming up that is actually on my nails that I did prefer a little bit to this one. The next polish we're going to look at is the other shimmery non-cream polish in the collection, and I prefer this one highly to Made It to the 7th Hill that we looked at 2 polishes back. This one's called Now Museum, Now You Don't, and the reason is just it has more of a punch of pigment. For me, with you know, orangey or coppery bronze shades, I just tend to prefer them to be a little bit richer in color. And so I can see that for the same exact reason, somebody might prefer the opposite color that I chose because they're looking for something a little bit softer, a little bit less of a standout shade that makes you draw your attention to your nails. So I thought this was beautiful. This does have a different formula than that other one. It's not really a pearly finish. This one does look more metallic, and it's just a beautiful red copper. I thought this one was really great. This is probably one of my favorites out of the collection for the fact that I don't have a ton from OPI that looks like this. I will be able to show you, you know, some comparisons coming up at the end of the video. But you know, this is just different enough for me that it really draws my eye to this polish when I look at the collection as a whole. The next polish in the collection is the yellow, so you know that I had to be really happy when I saw this collection and saw this beautiful, very pigmented, rich sunflower yellow. Yeah, it's really great. I was also really pleased with the coverage of this polish. So this is called Sun, Sea, and Sand in My Pants. If you're really careful with your application, you can get this done in 2 coats, which is really great as far as yellows go because they're almost always 3 coaters. Just because the lightness of the pigmentation, it's almost impossible to get this streak free. There are some brands that do have great 2-coat yellows, and this one's pretty close, so I like that. It is probably lending to the fact that it's a little bit darker of a yellow. If you don't get it done in 2 coats, don't feel bad about that. Go for that 3rd coat. Just do 3 nice thin coats and it will look lovely. Like I said, most yellows are 3 coaters. So I was really happy that this was in here. Next up we have the other very, very light white, or it's not really an off-white, it's a white. I'm going to show it to you next to the other shade in the collection as promised. See how similar they are? They're very similar, but this one has just a tiny bit of blush in it. And this one I'm showing you now, I suppose maybe just has a little teeny tiny bit of gray in it. It's a very little amount. This is a very bright white shade. This polish is called Suzi Chase's Portu-geese. And I did do 3 coats on this one. I just wanted to make sure I had absolutely streak-free application because if I'm going to wear a really fresh blank white, I would like it to be a really crisp, streak-free look on my nails. So I did go for 3 coats, which is pretty typical for whites. So I didn't, you know, I didn't have any qualms about that. Anyway, I do think this shade is very beautiful. For me, it's not, you know, ranking among the top 5 out of this collection. But I do think it's fun to have a shade like this in your stash that you can pull out when you want just a completely fresh break from color and you want to have a clean slate before you start into, you know, new colors for a new season perhaps. So this is Suzi Chase's Portu-geese, and I did 3 coats for my live application and my swatch photo. Next up, we're going to look at this light pink, and this is definitely like a dusty pink with some tan in it. And I was really happily surprised with how much I loved this. This is the polish that I have on today. And I loved that it is very light and delicate without feeling too feminine, if that makes any sense. It's because it has a little bit of tan in there that it kind of brings the impact down a little bit. And for me, this was just like the perfect pink out of the collection. So surprisingly, this is one of my favorites that I have out of this collection. This is called Tagus in that Selfie exclamation point. This gets nice at 2 coats. You could go for a 3rd. As I'm looking at my application today, I feel like it could have handled a 3rd coat. And it just depends on how much you care if it's absolutely streak free. This is a really good go out the door in 2 coats polish where nobody else but you is going to notice if there's any streaks. Does that make sense? So I really enjoyed this. The next polish in the collection was a beautiful, fantastic pop of color for them to put in here, and I was really happy about that as well. This is just a beautiful cerulean kind of blue, and it's called Tile Art to Warm Your Heart. I thought this was a great choice. This also has a great application in 2 coats, just like most of the rest of the polishes in the collection, and for such a pigmented shade, if it didn't get great application in 2 coats, I would wonder why. But yeah, this is fantastic. This is, you know, kind of similar to some other polishes that they have, but how similar, you'll have to stay tuned to see. If wearing blue on your nails isn't your thing, you're gonna wonder, well, why did they take up a whole spot for this bright, bright blue shade? But I personally am a fan of having a nail polish in every color of the rainbow. All right, we just have 2 left. We have another red. This is kind of a red pink. It's one of those red pink coral hybrids that are pretty common. It's a beautiful bright shade, just easy to wear. This is called We Seafood and Eat It. I thought this was a great polish, even though it wasn't particularly unique. You know, when they're building their collections, they're not assuming that every person who's going to buy their polish already has every single polish that they've released, or a majority of them like I do. So my perspective is always skewed in that side of things, where I've already collected, you know, so much OPI, more than I can use. So when I say that this isn't particularly unique, it doesn't mean that it's not a great polish. Just for me, I already have a few things like this. So in any case, we'll get into that later. This is We Seafood and Eat It. And the last polish in the collection is another light blush kind of shade, and I am so happy to tell you I really like this one as well. This is called You've Got Nata on Me, and let me show you up next to the one I have on my nails. Here they are together. You've Got Nata on Me is on the bottom, and see how similar they are? It's just a little bit darker. It's a peachier, tanner version of this pink on the top. You've Got Nata on Me, I did it 2 coats again, and this is another one of those shades where you could maybe go for the 3rd coat. It is very light. It's a very light neutral shade, which doesn't tend to be that pigmented. So you decide how you like to wear them. All of these polishes, by the way, are pictured with the Opi Brilliant Topcoat that I also got from polishpick.com, and I've been really enjoying their top coats lately as well. That top coat in particular is a very thin top coat. It's just meant to give you a high shine, but it's not really going to give you any volume or any plumping effect to your polish. With the XOXO holiday collection, I pictured all of those with the plumping top coat if you want a direct comparison. That wraps up the collection, you guys. Are you interested in seeing what these polishes compare to? I know that I definitely am always interested to start pulling things off my shelves, swatching them side by side with the new polishes and seeing what's similar and what's not. It always helps me remember about other polishes that I have up there on these shelves that I haven't played with in a little while. So we're going to go ahead and look at those comparisons now. If you're not interested in doing that, well then I will hopefully see you back for the next video. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you aren't already. If you like this video, you can go ahead and give it a big thumbs up. Let's go ahead and move into the comparisons. Alright guys, let's get into these comparisons. We're going to go in the same order that we looked at the live swatching. I did just want to say really quickly, I own a lot of polishes. That's why I have a lot of dupe-worthy polishes. Just because something I think has an exact dupe, like Closer Than You Might Belém, doesn't mean that it's not worthy of purchase for you. It just means that in my vast collection, I have something that's a dupe. Calling something a dupe to something else isn't saying that that polish is bad or that it should not have been made, particularly when it's in the same exact brand. It makes me wonder a little bit why they did it. But, you know, I'm just pointing out that they're dupes because you guys ask me to. So I'm not pointing out any dupes to throw shade on any of these products or anything like that. I'm just doing it because you guys ask for dupes. So I just want to make that 100% clear. No shade here for any of these polishes. As you can clearly tell, I love nail polish. So I have much love for all of these polishes. So to begin, we have a Red-vival City that you will see second from the bottom there. And I don't have anything that's an exact dupe for you, but very, very close. Roguish Red, I feel like, is very close, a little bit more red. And then Pop the Trunk is also super close. It's a little bit, it's not as great of a formula, and it's a little bit lighter. And then from OPI, Me, My, Selfie, and I has more white in it. And it's a little bit less orange, but these are all very, very similar things if you were looking for another shade like this. Next up we have Closer Than You Might Belém, which is kind of a funny name given that I have an almost exact dupe for you in China Glaze Aquadelic, which is a super great classic China Glaze shade with a beautiful formula. I did also want to show you a comparison next to My Dog Sled is a hybrid. They are similar, not at all dupes, but I think it's fun to see them side by side. Next up we have made it to the 7th hill, and that is that kind of bronzy caramel luster shade with some pink undertones. It's actually pretty similar to China Glaze As Good As It Glitz, but that's a little bit more pink if you're wanting something with more pink to it. It's also fairly similar to Worth a Pretty Penne, which is one of my favorite OPI polishes ever. And they just have a different finish, as you can see. Worth a Pretty Penne has the kind of finish where you can see all the particles, and 7th Hill is more of the pearly kind of lustry finish. Next, we're gonna look at Lisbon Wants More OPI, which is second from the bottom there. Again, I was very surprised to find so many extremely similar things. One such from OPI at the top, we have Let's Be Friends. They're super duper close. So close that I would call them dupes. I would call all of these dupes except for Mixed Taupe at the bottom has a little bit more of like a taupey brown. Next up, let's look at these beautiful pinks here. So we have No Turning Back from Pink Street, second from the top. I would say your closest bet would actually be Zoya Esti, which doesn't have quite as good of a formula at 2 coats. Well, it's actually just, it's a little bit more sheer. It's less of a cream formula. Next, we're gonna look at one of my other favorites from the collection, Now Museum, Now You Don't. As you can see, that's second from the bottom. I have a few really close things here, actually. China Glaze Stop That Train has been a favorite of mine for a few years since it came out a few falls ago. I love it. It is a little bit less kind of fiery orange. It's a little bit more toned down red, if you can even call this color toned down. It's very close though. Also, Zoya Salma is really, really close. That one's a little bit more red as well. Next up, let's look at this beautiful yellow in this year's spring collection, Sun, Sea, and Sand in My Pants. Now, first off, if you were wondering how close it is to Exotic Birds Do Not Tweet, it's there at the bottom. I was thinking that this year's yellow was going to be incredibly similar to Good Grief from the Peanuts collection that was a limited release a few years ago, but it's actually right in between Good Grief and the It color. So it's almost like a marriage between those two, because the It color has a couple more drops of red than Sun, Sea, and Sand in My Pants does. And then another one I just thought I'd throw in for fun. We have Color Club Almost Famous. I put all these in here because these are all my nice sunflowery yellows. Okay, it's not every day that we get to compare whites, so this was fun for me. Now I have a few things from OPI, a few things from China Glaze. Let's go ahead and begin. So I know I said in the video that I thought it was maybe like a pinch of blue in there, that, you know, one drop of blue in the vat that made this what it is. But putting it side by side, all of these other whites, I think I've determined it's actually a blush tone. Because this is very similar to China Glaze Friends Forever Right, which is a white with a teeny tiny bit of pink in it, and that is the exact way that Suzi Chase's Portu-geese is leaning. Now, my very favorite white I'm featuring here for you at the very top, this is Avon Iceberg White. I highly suggest this to anyone who wants a really great, reliable white. The reason why I love this so much is that's one coat there, up there at the top, whereas the rest of these are two. Here's another favorite of mine from the collection. We have Tagus in that Selfie right there sandwiched in the middle. I don't have an exact dupe for you, but China Glaze Sweet as Pinkie Pie is incredibly close. If I were to pick one, I would probably choose Tagus in that Selfie. I think it has a slightly better formula. Essie Excuse Me Sir is also really close. It's a little bit more peachy, but not as peachy as the peachy pink that we're going to look at here at the end. Okay guys, next up, the blue. So this is the polish that I was referring to earlier in the video that I feel like has an exact dupe, nearly two. I thought you might appreciate seeing it right next to last year's blue from the spring collection. They are really, really close. Last year's blue is slightly more green leaning and less bright, which means less white. I think that the dupe-worthy polish here is OPI My Pal Joey. A really discerning eye could pick out a subtle difference in them. I would say maybe Tile, you know, is a tiny bit brighter. Tiny, tiny. But, yes, Now, if you don't know, My Pal Joey was from the Hello Kitty collection. So since that was a limited edition release, maybe OPI was thinking that not as many people have that polish, but they're so similar, I'm kind of surprised that they released this polish again in this year's collection. Okay, you knew I would have a lot of comparisons for you here with We Seafood and Eat It. I'm actually not going to go through each one. You can just take a screenshot of this if you would like. You can take a screenshot of all of them really if you want to. If you're going to share it anywhere, I would appreciate you giving me credit for my work. It does take me a long time to do this dupes and comparisons section. Okay, last up we have another one of my favorites, which is You Got Nata on Me, and I'm not going to say that any of these are exact dupes. These are just beautiful comparisons, beautiful polishes. Excuse Me Big Sur up at the top, I guess I would say is the closest, but it's a shade or two darker. And then we have Essie Excuse Me Sir right below it, which I did show you in comparison to Tagus in that selfie. I just thought it was, you know, fair to show it side by side here, since I thought it was the polish that was kind of sandwiched in between those two shades. And I always thought it was kind of interesting that Essie and OPI named polishes that are like in the exact family, just one has a little bit more white in it, named them so similar. I just thought that was so strange, and almost like one was exactly influenced by the other one, even with the name. I don't know, kind of funny. Okay, so the comparisons are finished. I hope that you found that helpful, you guys. Like I said, this collection will be available for pre-sale around January 7th at polishpick.com, and the link is in the description bar as well if you want to go ahead and click on it and bookmark the page so you can make sure and get in on that pre-sale. That's going to be it today, you guys. Thanks for stopping on by and giving me some of your time. I will see you back very soon. Take care. Bye.